Okay. Brian won't make it, he's got truck issues.
You got what?
Truck issues.
Oh,
He's waiting for you to go.
Yeah, he said it earlier.
Yep. I'm tired.
So I can do the building.
February 28th, I think. We're getting March 1st, Monday morning, whatever. He gets a
Oh,
bill
perfect.
from Rev, like $200-something. His cable and his HBO and the whole thing.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of June the 9th for the South Levee District. Please rise for the pledge. Mr. Terrio, will you lead us in the pledge, sir? I believe
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mary, roll call.
Keith Guidry,
Here.
Gavin Colley,
Here.
Roland Curall,
Here.
Mitch Danos,
Here.
Brett LaRoche,
Here.
Scott Terrio,
Here.
Brian Martz, McNeely Roan,
Here.
Monty Bates. Mr. President, we have four.
Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, you've been presented with minutes of last month's meeting. I'm looking for a motion to approve. Moved by Scott, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, on the President's report, all I have, I'd like to thank everyone for the change in schedule to make our meeting at 10 o'clock. Nick has some duties for us this afternoon that he needed to attend. So really appreciate it. Thank you for that. Executive Committee report, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. So last week, the Executive Committee met on Tuesday to discuss the lobbying contract with Claire and Chabert, engineering design contracts for upcoming projects, and then also the Reach-L construction, which Mr. Mathern will be discussing in further detail later in his report. And then President Guidry also requested that Mr. Mathern schedule a meeting with the board's attorney to discuss recent residential complaints regarding erosion along the Barrow Canal. So this concludes my report. Pass it back to you.
Any question for Scott? Okay, moving on. Any audience comments? Anybody here to address the audience? Anybody here from the audience to address the board? All right. Okay, Executive Director, Nick.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I do want to point out that the date is wrong on our presentation. It is actually June 9th, not June 6th. So I apologize for that. Speaking of June, we are now in hurricane season. So the Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1st through November 30th. The strongest periods tend to be from around August 15th to October 15th. But strong hurricanes can hit earlier or later, as we know. Hurricane Audrey was a Category 3, made landfall at the end of June in '57. And more recently, Hurricane Zeta hit at the end of October in 2020. So just because at the heart of hurricane season, we typically see the strongest storms between August 15th, October 15th. Don't get complacent before or after then. Also, please make sure that you're getting your weather projections from reliable sources. I'll say the National Hurricane Center doesn't project any tropical activity for the next 7 days. I guess saying it bluntly, some weather sources tend to play on fear and exaggeration because they have to sell advertisements, right? So you're going to hear some inflated things all through hurricane season, but if you want just unbiased, data-driven information, I always recommend people go to the National Hurricane Center. You can just Google National Hurricane Center or go to nhc.noaa.gov, and they'll give you the outlook for the next 7 days and more information there. I do want to remind all of our residents that we do have an incredibly effective levee system, right? But our levee system is meant to reduce the risk of flooding to homes and businesses. Please, please do not use or rely on these levees to protect your lives, right? Structures can be replaced, lives cannot. If a strong storm is heading our way, please follow the advice of the Lafourche Parish government and evacuate or get to a shelter when that recommendation is made. I recommend that you start planning now, not when there's a storm a day out. Start planning now.
Berm up to sea level, where before, in some spots, it was as low as 5 feet below sea level. This will give the entire levee in this area much more stability and reduce the chance of levee failure if floodwaters get too high on the outside of the system. Near the southern end of that project, we're continuing to improve a portion of Section E North, which surrounds the Clovelly Farms area, protecting from around East 28th Street down to around East 44th Street. Portions of this levee were down to only 10 feet above sea level, and we're currently hauling in dirt to lift 2 miles of that levee to 14.5 feet. By the time the heart of hurricane season arrives in mid-August, the entire crown of that levee is expected to be at that target elevation, with just work on the inside of the levee left to finish before the end of the year. Just below South Lafourche High School, East 101st Place crosses over the levee. The levee on either side of that street has been lifted in previous years to around 14 feet in elevation, but the road has stayed lower, around 10 feet, forcing our personnel to install emergency flood fighting measures across the road ahead of hurricanes. We're currently working to raise the road to an elevation of 18 feet above sea level, since we're now in the beginning stages of planning and designing a lift of the whole 4.5 mile section of levee in this area to 16 feet in the next few years. In a previous video, we highlighted the Breton Canal Weir right next to South Lafourche High School that was completed earlier this year. This weir, along with pump station number 6 at the other end of Breton Canal, will help us to lower the water level in Bayou Lafourche up to 6 inches over a 24-hour period if a storm ends up dropping an excessive amount of rain. On the west side, we've also completed a lift of section C South from West 107th Street to the Côte Blanche connection, Highway 3161. Before Hurricane Ida, the top of this 3-mile stretch of levee was between 12 and 14 feet in elevation. I am Nick Mathern, director of the completed a lift of that levee in 2023, season's now here, and the levees do settle over to highlight all the work that levee is still above 17 to make sure that our community level is ahead of prepared for any future storms and hurricanes. We also want to take this moment to remind everyone to start planning around our entire system. We've also begun maintenance work to prevent erosion to the flood side toe of our levee in areas where we've lost all marsh up to our levee shoreline. 4.5 miles from under a permit we received to install vinyl sheet down along our entire levee system where needed. Our levee district personnel are working to protect the integrity and stability of the elevation, not just from hurricane damage, but from the daily erosion we see along our entire system, from normal wave action because of all the marshland that we've lost over the decades. This will give the entire levee in this area. We do have several projects already funded that are currently in design and permitting that will be constructed over the next couple of years. The first of those to come online will be lifts of 7 miles of levee surrounding Golden Meadow that are currently between 16 and 17 feet in elevation. Those sections of levee will be lifted to 19.5 feet after construction. Be sure to connect on social media to the Lafourche Parish Government, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, and the South Lafourche Levee District. These 3 pages will give you the most up-to-date information before, during, and after any future storm events, so that you can make the best decisions to keep you and your family safe, with just work on the inside of the levee left to finish before the end of the year.
I'll be signing autographs later.
East 101st Place.
That's all the update I have for hurricane prep. If anybody has any specific questions about
previous years to
storm
around
time emergency prep, I'll definitely take those.
But the road has stayed lower, around 10 feet, forcing our personnel to install
on a related topic, we do have to update our emergency operations manual every year, mainly to keep our contact information updated. But this year we also changed our monitoring threshold for the Delta Farms road gate. We've started keeping an active watch on the water level outside the gate when the levels in the intercoastal roads reach 1.8 feet above sea level, but we've lowered it this year to 1.5 feet above sea level. Not a huge change, but it helps us to remember to be more mindful when we're going to close that gate and to coordinate with those 2 facilities outside of the system that are affected by that closure. But since it's an official policy document, we need board approval for those changes. So I'd recommend that the board approve the proposed revisions to the Emergency Operations Procedures Manual and adopt the manual as proposed.
Highway 3161.
For the recommendation.
Before Hurricane Ida, the top of this 3-mile stretch of levee was between 12 and 14 feet in elevation. We completed a lift of that levee in 2023, and though levees do settle over time, most of that levee is still
The
above
last
17
piece is
feet
our
above sea
insurance
level,
renewal.
ahead of the 2025 hurricane
The
season.
flood insurance has already been renewed, but the remaining
Around our
policies will
entire
expire
system, we've also
on
begun
July
maintenance
14th,
work
which is
to
the date
prevent
of our
erosion
next
to the flood
board
side
meeting.
toe of our levee
The
in
policies
areas
need to be
where we've
renewed
lost
before the
all
next
marsh
board
up
meeting,
to our levee
but the
shoreline.
insurance committee
Under
has
a
not had
permit
the
we
opportunity
received
to
to
meet
install final
between the
sheet
time that we
along our
received
entire levee
quotes
system where needed.
in today's meeting.
Our levee district personnel are
So I've
working to
confirmed with our
protect
board
the
attorney
integrity
that
and
the board
stability of
does
the
have the
levee,
ability
not
to
just from
grant
hurricane
authority
damage, but from
to the
daily
insurance
erosion we
committee
see along our
to
entire
approve
system
the policy
from
quote and
normal wave
execute the
action
necessary
because of all
documents
the
for
marshland that we
the next
lost over
meeting.
the decades.
The overall quotes that we received collectively
We do have several projects already funded that are currently in design and permitting
decrease
that will be
from last
constructed
year
over the next couple
for
of
the
years.
same coverage.
The
So
first of those to
based
come
on our
online
board
will be
attorney's
lifts
input,
of
I
7
recommend
miles
the
of
board
levee surrounding
authorize
Golden
the
Meadow
insurance
that are
committee
currently
to review the
between
quotes
16
from
and 17 feet in
AmeriSafe
elevation.
through
Those sections
Acrisure,
of
which is
levee
formerly
will be
Lease
lifted to
Insurance,
19 and a half
for
feet out
workers'
of the truck.
compensation and public
Be sure to
officials
connect on
insurance.
social media to the Lafourche Parish
From
Government, Lafourche
State
Parish
Farm
Sheriff's Office,
for business
and the
auto
South Lafourche Levee
insurance,
District.
and from
These 3 pages will give you the
Gallagher
most
for commercial
up-to-date
general
information
insurance,
before,
commercial inland and
during,
property,
and after any
and
future storm events,
cybersecurity and
so
privacy
you can make the
liability.
best decisions
And
to
after
keep you
reviewing
and
the
your family
quotes,
safe.
recommend renewal and authorize the president or executive director to sign and execute any relevant
I'll be
documents.
signing autographs later, but.
That was a lot of words. I can explain any of that if needed more detail.
Going down right here.
All right, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager to allow our insurance committee to accept and approve all upcoming renewals as stated.
On a related topic, we.
Motion by Brett, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And that's completing my report.
Okay. Any other questions for Nick? Okay, engineer report, CPRA. Daniel, you have anything?
I didn't have anything, but I have a quick question. It's not worth the step in the podium. On the updated emergency opportunity, are you guys, are you gonna send us a copy of that? You have a regular contact, right?
We sent, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you sent out, okay, perfect. That's all, thanks.
All right, nobody from the Corps over here, nobody from the Corps. Side. Project engineers, Pisciola and Associates, Joe.
On the LaRose Lock project, so we've completed the plans and specs, we have all the permits in place, and we're continuing to work on obtaining funding for the project. We're currently working with the parish on a hazard mitigation grant program, and their consultant to get money from FEMA. That's kind of ongoing, and we're providing information, they're providing information to us also, so we're working on that now. Section E North levee project, that's from southeast corner to northeast corner. Construction Site Specialties is the contractor. So he's been working on site steadily since we had several meetings with him to get him started again. He's making good progress. He's staying ahead of compo, so we have construction site taking material out the Barble pit, moving it on the levee, and then we have Compo and Sons placing the material onto the levee crown and onto the berm. So he's working his way from south to north. He's got about 1,500 feet left on the crown to get it up to grade. And also the crown, all of the crown improvements. So we hope that, you know, like Nick said in his presentation, we'll have it all the crown up to a 14.5, 15 before the really meat of the hurricane season. That's the plan anyway. And then after that, he's coming in and working on the protected side berm. So we do have invoice from Construction Site Specialties, pay application number 15 in the amount of $83,966.04, and we'd recommend you pay that.
I also do want to point out, if I can, that we've had some issues with this contractor since the beginning of the project, but we recently had an in-person meeting at Joe's office with them about a month and a half ago, and they've definitely stepped it up and had a lot more trucks running.
How many trucks do you have now?
It's they averaging about 10 a day, something like that, 8 to 10 a day. So it's working out.
And if it worked out good, we'll come to Jesus meeting with them
And we asked
they'll
them,
improve.
they had some issues on the site where they had some old broken down trucks. They removed all of that. They did everything we asked them to do. Okay?
Good.
So,
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer, pay construction site specialties, pay app number 15, the amount of $83,966.04. Moved by Scott, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
we also have an invoice from Campo and Sons, pay application number 8 in the amount of $65,065 even. We recommend you pay that.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer, pay application number 8 to Compo and Sons, the amount of $65,654. Moved by Max, second by Gavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
So Section A East levee improvements is a new project. All the plans and specs are complete. That's from pump station number 4 down to the Ontario locks. That's on the east side of Lafourche. We have the DNR, the state permit, the parish permit. We're working on the core permit, and we're also working on 408 permit review and an environmental analysis. Nick and I have been meeting steadily with the Corps, and we are making progress. They have agreed to kind of slim down their requirements on the environmental analysis, which will make it easier and hopefully quicker for us to obtain a permit. We keep filling out information and sending it back and forth to them, so that's kind of the stage we're in right now. And the emergency gate closure at LaRose floodgates. So the winches have been ordered on for a while. They've we always knew they were a long lead item. They're expecting them to come in early August, and once that happens, we'll get them put in. And the corner plate repair at the south floodgate, the boat owner came in and they had a little rough going at first, but they got it done and they did a good job. So we're satisfied with it, and everything worked out well.
Joe, a couple of questions. You mentioned in the section need more improvements, you take it from a borrowed pit? Again, that dirt?
Yes, so we were granted a right-of-way to do a borrow pit from the people that own Cloverly Farms. And there's 3 triangular shaped sections that are actually outside of their farm itself. It's just property that they own that was adjacent to the property where Paul Dufresne owned previously. So they allowed us to dig pits in those 3 triangular sections.
So we're not having to take out the canal, on the bottom canal?
No. So that's where the material's coming from. It's a lot of material, and it's actually going to help you build up the levee, in advance of what you would have had to do before.
And the funding issue for the LaRose lot is still in the parish side that we're short of?
Yeah, so we put up $5 million originally, and then CPRA gives another $5 million from surplus dollars, I believe it was in the beginning. So the most recent cost estimate could be up to around $40 million. So that's what I'm trying to plan for. Hopefully it's not going to cost that much, but so we're now still $30 million short. The first $15 million of that was pledged by Lafourche Parish government. That's what Joe was mentioning, that he's working with the parish's engineer on that effort to try to go through what's called the benefit cost analysis for FEMA to be able to approve that $15 million. We literally just this morning got back a building survey of when we did the modeling of how, if we don't have the LaRose gate in place and we had a large rain event or flood event, how much flooding would occur inside the system. And then once we saw that model of where the flooding would occur, then we had to take all the buildings that are in that area and figure out what's the value of the damages that would happen. And so we're in the middle of that process right now. Once we get that number, we can send that to FEMA and they can see that we're going to be saving a lot more in damages by putting this in place than they're going to be spending on the project. So that's what the benefit cost analysis does. Make sure that from the federal government standpoint, you're at least saving $1 of damage for every dollar you spend on a project. So that's the first half of that last 30 million. The other half of that, the other 15 million that was remaining, just before Christmas last year, we got a commitment from CPRA to get that last 15 million in the next 2 annual plans. So the current annual plan that's going through the legislature right now includes the first 5 million of that. So once that goes through, that 5 million will be available on July 1st. So hopefully this FEMA money will come pretty soon. And then as soon as that's available after July 1st, we actually have the other 10 million hanging out in our bank account so that we can go to bid once the FEMA money is ready. Then in next year's annual plan, assuming it could be up to $40 million that this would all cost, CPRA has the other 10 million, up to 10 million, ready to go in next year's annual plan. And then we'd be able to free up that other 10 million of our money to be able to put on other projects.
So we put up 5 million.
Anything else for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
The other item that is on there, we'll cover a little bit in the projects committee update. But there's a few projects, like Joe mentioned, we're going through a laundry list of items to try to get our permit for A East from the Corps of Engineers. And so looking ahead, as Mac's going to talk about, our projects committee sat down and determined what our biggest priorities would be in the next 5 years so that we can start those preliminary designs and getting permitting going. But we'll table that new contract until next month for Pisciola and Associates.
Literally just this morning.
All right, GIS engineer.
A building survey. We did the modeling.
All right. Hi guys, Morgan DeGrees with GIS Engineering. First project is the A East Bayou Water Retention. So we are still going forward with the landowners right now. So we've actually come up with a new alignment where we move the east-west portion of the levee further south to try to get it on a different landowner's property. We had some issues with the landowner to the north. Nick and I actually met with the Allen landowners to the south where it ties into the road all the way to the west, right there. So that portion. So they've requested some additional figures and maps and all to kind of really see how it affects their property. They are also the landowner of the majority of that north-south portion as well, so good that we've been able to talk with them. So we're still dealing with that, so no real update until we can get something there and nail down this alignment. So. Second one is the D-North ramp lift. So on this one, this is onshore with the help of Campo and Sons. This is the berm of D-North where they're actually getting most of their material. We do think that they're going to have enough material stockpiled on the berm from the previous project that they'll be able to raise the levee and the ramp up to the proposed 18-foot elevation. So right now they do believe that they've got the ramp in the northern section of the levee up to an 18. We're waiting on the surveys for that to be able to tell, where they are and how we're looking as far as available material. We do have some backup plans depending on how much extra material we need of being able to pull a little additional from the berm or some additional off-site locations that we've talked about. But once we get there, we'll kind of know where we may need to get that additional material. So we do have a change order though for 8 days. Those include the weather days in excess of the contract for April and May, as well as 2 days from Loop. Loop actually had requested to shut down or onshore had requested to shut down the road to be able to break up the asphalt, or not the asphalt, the limestone and all that was there. And in going with Luke, we requested to close it. They had a shipment coming through and they could not close it, so onshore was sitting for a couple days. So we do recommend that y'all award the change order for 8 days to onshore.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to award 8 additional contract days. Contract. Motion by Mr. Rowland, second by Mac. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Awesome. And just to kind of a little more detail with that, so that's going to move it to September 23rd. The contractor does believe that they're going to be done well before that, around the middle of August. So they shouldn't need it, but, you know, just in case. I guess next one, D-South Flood Wall Phase 3. So this project has been completed by sea level. Everything looks good. Punch list is completed. I believe y'all have actually gone out there and seeded the area as well. We're just waiting on the 45-day clear lien period, so that expires July 14th. So we'll be back, you know, with retainage in a couple months. Get something there and nail down. And that went really smoothly, as you can kind of see, looking at a plus 19 and plus 18 throughout there. So you get some good protection. And we do have two on here. Nick kind of mentioned for some new contracts. We don't have those necessarily ready, so we'll table those for now. We'll be back with y'all on that in the next meeting. And also one that's not on here that we had was the Raphael Project Road Bridge replacement. Make sure to get some pictures added on there. So we have started kind of assessing it, made some site visits. And that's the bridge over there by D-South and pump station number 4 that you use to access. We've got some surveys that are going to be going out there this week, next week, and get the ball rolling there. So.
That's it.
That's it.
Any questions for Marty?
Good. Thank y'all.
Would you like to song? And Neil?
Good morning. On the Sea-South flood side repairs, that contractor, Compo and Sons, is continuing to work on the berms, side slopes, and the crown of that levee section. We're recommending approval of his invoice number 1407 in the amount of $27,435 and no cents.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to pay Compo and Sons, invoice 1407, amount of $27,435. Moved by Scott, second by Matt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, next section is the Section B levee segments, and we have two contractors working on that effort. First is New Gym Construction. They're working on the protected side berm for that levee segment, and we're recommending approval of their invoice number 1051 in the amount of $40,755.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of engineer to pay New Gym Construction, invoice 1051, amount of $40,755. Moved by Brett, second by Mr. Rowland. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
And the second contractor we have on there is Compo and Sons. They're working on the levee segment, also from the on the flood side maintenance and also the protected side berm. We're recommending approval of their invoice number 1406 in the amount of $100,525 and no cents. And that's for the flood side and protected side work.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the engineer to pay Compo and Sons, invoice 1406, amount of $100,525. Moved by Gavin, second by Matt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
All right, and item number 3, similar to what Joe and Nick and Morgan had mentioned, we're working on a new contract for that section B North, so we'll have that later this week, and we'll table that till next meeting.
Question, Neil, B North levy. Why is there two contractors? Specialty stuff, or just the job is that big?
So, yeah, we just spreading the work out a bit. We had New Gym working on one segment. Compo began doing some work on the flood side, and then we took advantage of the equipment that he had to go ahead and do some additional work to try and speed things up on that. So, it's a pretty big effort trying to split it up and get it done.
Okay, any questions for Neil?
All right, thank you.
Anyone from Delta Coast? All sides. This is Stevie Smith.
So we got a couple of projects on the agenda. The marsh terraces at Reach K, that work is complete. We're working on getting the district reimbursed from FEMA. Really GOSEP is very close to reimbursement. Again, it's a 12-step process. We're on step 11. So it's not an AA process. It's a 12-step process at GOSEP. Okay, but I expect that to be resolved in the next 30 to 60 days, and that's going to be about a $400,000 or $500,000 that's coming back to the district, and of course a portion of that goes back to the Terrebonne Levee District. The Reach K levee, when I talked to Nick on Friday, was not any activity on Reach K, but later Friday afternoon, I received word that we're going to have some funds. Well, we've been expecting some funds to be allocated in the coastal master plan this year. It's actually the Lafourche Parish government funds that are in the coastal master plan that the parish president is allowing to be used on Reach K, about 1.5 million. So that, with the session about over, that money is almost available. So we're going to probably do a construction kickoff meeting for Reach K in the next 2 weeks. Again, to refresh the board's memory, the Terrebonne Levee District was managing that work. They had a contractor that was supplying material, and then another contractor that was shaping it in place. So we're going to use the same structure when the new money is available. We're not going to rebid it or anything like that. We're going to have the same folks just reactivate that contract. It's about $1.5 million. He's probably going to put 30 to 40,000 yards more material on Reach K. Right? And then the next item on the agenda again is a new contract. Nick and I met last week about helping you put together some pre-positioned contracts in place, some folks that will be available in case a storm hits to provide some emergency response in support of the district, labor, equipment, materials, stuff like that. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions for Steve? Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Legal permits and right away. Anything, Mitch?
We got one this month. It's Energy Louisiana LLC. After going over this permit, looking the board to approve this permit.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our chairman to approve the energy permits.
Just a little information about that one. This is to replace poles near pump station number 2 that a couple months ago I had reported that we had a fire, that one of the transformers that exploded in the top of the pole. So this is to replace that with steel poles. So this will be beneficial for us.
Okay, moved by Scott, second by Brent. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Alternatives are not in. Okay. Moving on to the Finance Committee report. Monty's not here.
We approved all the invoices as presented.
Okay, heard the recommendation of our committee member to approve all our invoices and pay our bills. Moved by Scott, second by Gavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
We also have the amended FY25 budget that needs to be approved by the board.
You guys should have got that. Okay, we heard the recommendation of general manager to approve our budget. Moved by Mr. Rowland, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Projects, Matt?
Yes, sir. As the project committee met on May 27th, the status of the activity projects was discussed by our executive director, Mr. Mathern. We also went over the status of projects in permitting, and we also discussed the project priorities for the next 5 years. As was presented earlier, we have a bunch of contracts trying to get finalized with some engineering for these A East project, B North levee improvements, E North levee improvements, and D North levee improvements, as was discussed earlier. We'll have to approve these today?
No.
Later, okay. And then we also had a discussion about the Lafourche Parish having a pump station on the east side of drainage improvements, and Mr. Mathern also discussed about that.
All right, any questions? Thanks, Matt. Okay, Building, Equipment, and Maintenance Committee. That's chaired by Brian, but Nick, you have it.
Brian's not here. I've got his report. The first item was the purchase of a dozer. The committee reviewed 2 quotes from Doggett on state contract for a John Deere dozer for a 750. And the cost would be $350,382.38. And the committee recommends approval to purchase the 750 John Deere dozer at that state contract price.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager to approve the purchase of the 750 dozer. Moved by Max, second by
A little
Scott.
information about
All in
that.
favor?
This is
Aye. Opposed?
near
Pass.
Are we getting the warranty? Is it included with the warranty?
It's an optional thing. An extended warranty is available at an additional cost of $2,245.50.
Brand new unit, you should.
We have a warranty with it.
It has a 12-month warranty. This would be another 12-month.
That much.
Do we have to do that now?
We can approve that now, too.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, you've heard the recommendation to accept the extended warranty. Moved by Mitch, second by Brett. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. Related to that would be the committee's recommendation to add the current John Deere 650 dozer to surplus, as surplus for sale on online auction once we receive the 750 dozer.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager to put our 650 for sale. Moved by Scott, second by Mac. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. The next item was the purchase of 2 vehicles. One would be, since we have 3 mechanics now full-time, the first would be to purchase a Ford F-250 crew cab with a Knapheide service body on state contract price of $63,045.03.
So that's a mechanic truck.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you heard the recommendation to approve the purchase of our F-250 pickup truck with the panels. Moved by Brett, second by Gavin. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. The other vehicle was an F-250 crew cab with a regular body at the state contract price of $51,686.41.
Okay, you heard the recommendation to approve the purchase of our F-250 on the state contract. Moved by Max, second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you. And the last item was just the status of all other equipment, which we discussed as all being in good working conditions. That's the Buildings, Equipments, and Maintenance Committee report.
Okay, moving on to Emergency Preparedness Committee. Mr. Rowland, you have that report?
The Emergency Preparedness Committee met on Wednesday, May the 28th, to discuss the following: debris removal contract update. Preposition contractor Tommy Crosby and Mark Watkins of Dynamics Group gave us an update on hurricane season preparation and anticipated communication along with dispatch procedures should debris removal service be required following any storm event this year.
It's an optional thing, an extended warranty.
Yes. Mr. Crosby requested coordination with the fire chief on whether 24-hour burning of vegetative debris would be allowed. Mr. Matern will set a phone call with Lafourche Levee District Dynamics and the fire department to discuss this.
We can approve that now.
Also, the general meeting preparation planning. Mr. Matern answered questions of the committee regarding general preparation for hurricane season. The committee discussed the potential for soliciting proposals for other reposition contract or any equipment or surplus that might be needed following a storm event. Mr. Matern recommended utilizing the service of All-South Consulting Engineer who managed the request for proposal efforts that secured the position contract with Dynamics. This concludes my report.
Thank you.
All right, any questions from Mr.
Next
Rowland?
item was purchase of...
All right, moving on, any old business?
Mr. President, committee, the recommendation there would be to approve the proposal that Stevie mentioned, the packets for, the request for proposals for labor and equipment that might be necessary. So the idea there is that Dynamic Group is our prepositioned debris removal contractor. We also have ADF Enterprises as the secondary. We also have a preposition contract for debris removal monitoring. Both of those are required by FEMA to be competitively procured ahead of time. It's an additional benefit if we could competitively procure pre-position contracts for if we need additional excavators, or if we need additional portable pumps, or generators, or air compressors, or labor, and so All South is going to put together a package for us to review again as a committee and go over whatever other equipment we feel we may need, and then we'll put out an advertisement to solicit proposals from whoever may be interested in that kind of preposition order. So this just helps us on the back end if we do need to get these services after a storm. When we go to apply for reimbursement from FEMA, they like to see these preposition contracts in place. It makes that whole process makes sense to get reimbursement.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of our general manager to accept our emergency preparedness. Moved by Matt, second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Okay, any old business? Any new business? We need executive session, attorney's not here. Okay, entertain a motion. By Scott, second by Mac, that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.